Thank you, Steve. Well, I'm on this panel. I am the least knowledgeable about Ukraine, so I will give you my perspective from where I sit at FSVC, and what FSVC does is build the capacity of financial sectors and emerging markets around the world by developing the core institutions, starting with central banks, including the other regulatory agencies, and when appropriate, commercial banks too. We have been in Ukraine in the past, in the 1990s and the 2000s, working very closely with the MBU on banking reform, supervision, development of the payment system, money laundering, corruption, NBU examiners. We set up a twinning relationship 15 or 20 years ago with the Federal Reserve in Washington. But we haven't been here since then. However, I will make some observations that I think are complementary to what we've discussed today. I thought the scorecard was fascinating. You know, I would say as a general rule in any economy that is going through a major transition like we had in this country with the end of the Soviet Union, or is trying to establish itself as an emerging market, that your foundation institutions are essential. They have to work. They have to work before anything else good is going to happen. And so here, I think that Ukraine should focus on that. You know, the central bank is up and running and functional, but it certainly could be stronger. There are other institutions here, like the National Securities stock market, that's barely functional at all. It has almost no capacity. The securities markets are scattered all over the place. So I think that we should be talking mostly about institutional development here. Just thinking for a minute, the scorecard was quite something. I would be concerned here about the commercial banking sector also, for two reasons. The commercial banking sector dominates the financial sector. I think something like 92 or 93% of the transactions go through. Is that right, Steve?
I'm not sure of the exact statistic.
Even more.
Even more. Okay.
Capital market does not exist, unfortunately.
So, I mean, on two scores here, I would make a priority of building the capacity of the regulatory institutions. I would look at that as something that needed to be done whole scale. But I would want the state-run commercial banks to have an entirely new governance structure. I would want to have a new leadership team put in there. I would look toward privatizing them, moving them into a position where they are properly functioning commercial banks that circulate money. I would be very aggressive about developing the non-bank financial institution sector. I would be very aggressive about making sure the regulators knew how to handle that. And what I mean by that is that the regulators know how to engage with non-bank financial institutions so that they move money, so that it actually generates the movement of capital to small and medium-sized businesses. I think that small and medium-sized businesses here are starved for money, and there's great opportunity in this country for them to grow if they could get it. So I would be pushing the regulators to develop their capacity there, and I would be trying to push out of the commercial banking sector into a more nuanced, developed, and complete financial sector writ large. I'm noticing the time. I will stop there to allow for our last commentator to speak, but I'm happy to take questions.